Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to more Silent Hill Downpour. Now in the... I'd say... No, if I could count them by areas, I'd say this is probably the third or fourth major area of the game. Well, I mean, all Silent Hill games tend to have direct sort of set pieces, and I'd say this is about the third or fourth one, or at least one of note, depending on whether or not you want to count the prison section combined with the Devil's Pit Stop or mine area, whatever. Either way, St. Maria's Monastery, a level which is probably my least favourite area in the game, although I only really say that because it is host to some very plot-heavy stuff, and at the same time also a couple of things that I do really enjoy. Such as this! You know, with a guy hacking away at a guy who sounds very familiar, almost like a pet Napier. But anyway, we get our trusty handy-dandy axe, which is probably one of the most useful weapons of the game. Mostly because it's actually surprisingly strong. I suppose I might as well get into that while I'm at it. In terms of Silent Hill Downpour's gameplay mechanics, and I really should have mentioned this far earlier on, but yeah, like Silent Hill 4, this game has breakable weapons. It's a mechanic that I think is handled okayishly, but at the same time though, you do have some long-lasting weapons. Like, I mean, your guns will never break down. I don't think the axe breaks either. But then again, that's also subjective. And look out, Murphy, there is a monster coming for you. But she does not exist. Or does she?
Hey there. Do you live here?
Sister said we're not supposed to talk to strangers. Oh. It's just you.
What's your name? Hey. Maybe you could unlock this door. Think you could do that for me? It's a pretty cool car you got there. You like cars? Yeah, my little boy. He used to play with cars just like that. You kind of remind me of him.
Is he dead?
Yeah.
Did you kill him?
What? No, of course not. Why would you say something like that?
Because she said you're the boogeyman.
Boogeyman? What are you talking about? Who said that?
She did. She told me all about you.
Why is she crying? Who is she?
I don't know. Just some girl. She's always sad, but she knows things.
What kind of things?
Things about the boogeyman.
Look, I won't lie to you. Grown-ups tell kids there's no such thing as monsters, that the boogeyman's just make-believe, and there's nothing hiding under their beds. But that's a lie, because I've seen him. And I have a feeling you have too. But I'm not one of them. I'm not the boogeyman. Now what do you say we get out of here, all three of us?
Do you know the rhyme?
What rhyme?
She told me there's a secret rhyme that makes the boogeyman go away. If you say it fast enough, he can't hurt you. Do you know it?
No. But if there's a rhyme that can do that, I sure wish you'd teach it to me.
Then I guess she's right. You are the boogeyman.
Kid, look at me. I'm not a monster.
Not yet.
I think they might have gotten an actual kid for that. Maybe, I'm not too sure. They don't really list, I don't even know the kid's name. I'm just gonna call the kid Fake Shelley, but they don't list his voice actor, but I think they did get an actual kid for that, which, given the line delivery, is somewhat noticeable, and honestly does kind of make me appreciative for... was it Jackie Beckenridge, I think? It was the kid who played Laura in Silent Hill 2 for just how well directed she was. Oh, and I finally did find a way to mitigate the little video hiccups that I've been having recently. Well, to mitigate it to a certain extent, but yeah, instead of cutting away to side missions or just awkwardly cutting, yeah, I should have been using the loading screens, which, again, they aren't exactly placed there, but it's just something I'm using as a way to make things feel a little bit less awkward, and speaking of kids, there's one running away! in probably one of the more cliche horror moments of tee hee hee, we're children, we're children, we're children. But yeah, she'll run up the stairs and laugh at us. Don't mock me, just because I'm trying to play the game. But yeah, she'll lock the door, there's no way there, and she'll just giggle. And I actually didn't notice that message until recently. Symbolism. Ornery. But anyway, what was I? Kind of forgot where I was. Anyway, I guess I'll get into why... Well, I mean, there's a long chunk of level, as you can probably tell by the video's timeline. There is a reason for that, because while this is one of my least favourite areas in the game, it's more or less because of the fact that it's a drag to play, and I think this is also where the asset reusal becomes its most noticeable. I mean, again, you can probably tell around town with, certain, wall textures, and items propped about, but I feel especially here it's at its most noticeable, because, I mean, you've seen these doors time and time again, you've seen, the same sort of pillars and, rust and decay everywhere. It's... Like, I mean, all Silent Hill games have the theme of blood and rust all about the place, but nowhere is it more noticeable than here, and it's not done to very good effect. I will say, though, I do like the Monastery feel, and, like, in terms of generating some moments of horror, I do think there are a couple of good scares to be found in this place, but when you're really playing through it, it just feels more like a marathon run, and not in a good way. But I suppose this does make up for it with a few certain set pieces that we'll be getting to in this video, and also for its general ambience, so I can't complain too much, but anyway, I might as well get to brass tacks, and as we heard in the cutscene from Fake Shelley, our current objective is to get the Bogeyman rhyme, which of course is scattered all about the place, which I feel is a little bit artificially lengthening. I don't know, but it does lead to a couple of decent things, like pulling back on this thing, and going to town on this gate, as I'm sure we all wish we could do to gates that block our progression, both in real life and in video games. One more time should do the trick. Go, Murphy, summon that inner strength that you have to avenge the death of your son, Charleston III. And now we get the Boogeyman rhyme, which I seem to remember in my first playthrough I always used to rap to myself. Again, it was a terrible rap, and it didn't really rhyme, which kind of made me a little bit sad, but... poor little Stephen Skelter. Even the chaplain won't forgive you because you're a piece of shit who deserves to die. Actually, no, he isn't. I'm sorry, Stephen Skelter. Stephen Skelter. The Helter of the Skelter. Does sound like an interesting alias, though. Although, then again, if you hear any organised crime and you hear the name Stephen Skelter, that'll probably immediately launch people to this video. Go there, over there, officers. It is him, the Solidus-Skully, who has been responsible for this crime. And this actually is one of my favourite little moments of what the fuck. See that little tire up there? Nothing noticeable, but... Hang on, come on. Once more, buddy. I will turn around and... What is it? Fuck, god damn it. This game is there we go. There's a prisoner hanging off it. But of course, we look away from the body, and we turn around... No, I thought I'd turn around and look at the body. But yeah, there is actually an interesting trick over there. Look away from the body, it turns into a... body, look away from it again, it turns back into a tire. And something you can actually manipulate and go, tire, dead body, 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 and then it becomes a horrible fusion monster that eats the planet and then kills everybody in Silent Hill. The end. The true final boss, so to speak. Well, actually, no. But again, I did always find that to be a pretty cool Easter egg. I don't know, like, I mean, I think in terms of having some understated scares, Silent Hill Downpour does pretty decently. And I mean, even in moments like this, with a little set piece coming up next, which kind of reminds me of that one mirror scene in Fear 2. Yeah, just creepy as hell. Again, I'll admit, I think Fear 2 did that a little bit better, although that probably is more to do with the fact that you're actually in control. And that this leads more so into a Frank Coleridge quote. I don't know. There are moments of... Okay, there's a moment of Freddy Krueger, and yeah, she is actually heading down that hallway. I don't really know what the point of having Murphy run all the way down here was, but whatever. Kinda reminds me of that scene from, like, Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, like when Freddy's, like, doing the little claw thing when he's running across the edges of it. Granted, I haven't seen the remake in ages, but that was one of the few memorable scenes, because it had Jackie O'Haley's Freddy doing something that was actually pretty interesting, rather than the monotonous stuff he was doing beforehand. I really don't want to harp on Jackie O'Haley as Freddy, though. I mean, I actually did think he turned in a decent performance, given the material, but... yeah, the man really deserves something better. and hopefully whatever Nightmare on Elm Street remake, reboot, whatever thing that comes next, hopefully it'll be for the better, because, I mean, considering how Halloween 2018 turned out, they could potentially do maybe a Nightmare on Elm Street, like, 2021, possibly? Like, maybe continuing off, either off the original film, or possibly after Freddy vs. Jason? I don't know, I'd like to see it happen. I mean, I think Robert Englund himself did say that he would reprise... He said he'd either reprise the role or go in for, like, a cameo in one of the movies if they come back. I don't know. But this right here is one that I do think makes St. Marina's Monastery one of the more worthwhile points in the game, even though it is a little bit of a drag in certain aspects. Now we have to climb this ladder, which of course requires us to use the little prod thing, which I honestly think should have been a permanent item of Murphy's, because... I don't know. It's a little bit tedious to kind of having to require, you know, Murphy searching around for a harpoon. I think he should have at least kept it within his inventory, but I don't know. That's just me. Anyway, what we're going to be doing now is putting on a little play, which we'll be finding right... Well, basically it requires us to get all the pieces, you know. We have a little music stand set up over here, we have our lights, cameras, and action. And basically, what the story context is here is that basically the people are going to be putting on a play, and because children's minds are so very fragile, and dare we ever shatter the thin veil of fantasy versus reality, yeah... one thing fucks up and we completely screw up the puzzle. This is actually, I think, one of the more involved puzzles that, while not very brain-taxing, it does lead to some cool imagery, as you'll soon be seeing once we get everything going. Yeah, but again, we just put these levers and cranks in place, and soon, the show shall begin. Lights off. What is going on? I will admit, I'm not very much one for theatre, but I gotta say, I really do appreciate the staging and everything that goes into the sort of production aspects. Especially here, actually, with the choir music, which is actually one of my favourite parts of the OST of Silent Hill Downpour. It's just haunting for as short a loop as it is. Anyway, we pull this down, and soon the sets will begin to descend. Here comes the background, down comes the house. And if you couldn't guess, what we're basically setting up for here is the tale of Hansel and Gretel. No real bosses or anything related to that, but it does make for some cool imagery, and as you'll soon see, we're about to take a delve into the surreal. I don't know, like, I mean, this really does give you the vibe of how, like, you know, both films and stage productions were made back in the day, which, I don't know why, it just makes me smile. But yes, the play becomes reality. Wouldn't this be a very involved sort of thing? In fact, I can totally imagine seeing this at some stage in the future when we have, like, holographic technology or something or other. I don't know, I think it'd be pretty cool. But yeah, that's well, I mean, for as short a section as it is, we do get to explore around in that forest. There are a few monsters to kick some ass of. And, yeah, we must make our way into the Wicked Witch's little shackle, which is made of candy, much to Murphy's disappointment. Although, then again, I don't really picture Murphy being that much of a sweet tooth, but... yeah, he goes off looking for that trail of breadcrumbs, looking for Mr. Hansel and Miss Gretel, all while trying to avoid the, creep, which I finally remember what the name of that thing was. Don't worry, we shall protect you from the for-3-hour monster, which was honestly kind of crap. Or we shall just run away and escape into the Wicked Witch's house. I kind of forgot what her name was, but anyway, let's take a listen.
Andy Williams!
Now, this puzzle was admittedly edited down for time. Again, this wasn't my video editor screwing up, obviously. Although, honestly, I wish I kind of did, because this is a bit of a tedious puzzle, especially since I'm playing on the hard mode, but, yeah, form the picture, open the box. Again, nothing too brain-taxing, but, you know, not something I think you probably want to spend, like, hours watching. Well, I mean, it doesn't really take that much either, it's just matching up the sides to open up the door, and now we got another piece of the poor little Stephen Skelter. Even the chaplain won't forgive you for splitting up your little bogeyman rhyme, which could save so many lives, as we will see quite concordantly. There is also another little letter here, which you can probably see, in terms of psychiatric things. I'll get into that a little bit later, since it does relate to the endings, and again, if I'm really that bored with nothing to talk about, I will go into the multiple choice system of this game, but yeah, first we're gonna have to have our dreams shattered. This play of Hansel and Gretel wasn't real. My dreams. But, yeah. Anyway. Kind of forgot where I was going. Damn. Seems Castle Oblivion is working its magic on me, but...
That's more like it.
Oh yes, get some pistol ammo. I suppose I might as well go into the little psychiatric notice. This is actually meant to tie into the bad ending of Silent Hill Downpour, which you will see, shortly, but... Again, Murphy actually grew up in a similar place to this. He was an orphan, and he basically spent time in a monastery similar to this. I don't think he grew up in Silent Hill, because Murphy never really makes any mention to this, but... Yeah, apparently what the implication seems to be here with a lot of the documentation is that Murphy was a bit of a troubled child, and because he wouldn't interact with his fellow children, he basically was subjected to a full frontal lobotomy after being, well, basically tortured. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because the implications here do seem to be a little bit vague, so I don't think I'm 100% on this. But yeah, apparently what's meant to be reported of this is that after the lobotomy, Murphy was meant to be a much more vindictive person, and as a result was a little bit more psychopathic. Think of it as though, in terms of canonicity to the entire plot and Murphy's actions up until this point, even disregarding the moral choice system, I don't think that entirely works, because at this stage, you know, Murphy's been a pretty amiable guy, and even despite some of the choices you can make, it's nothing that I would ever deem psychopathic, and again, I think while it is meant to be breadcrumbs leading to, oh, maybe Murphy is meant to be a little bit of a psychopath, as indicated by the bad ending, I don't think that's entirely the case, and I'm gonna let this cutscene in quotation marks play, because this makes me a bit uncomfortable.
Come on, Daddy, hurry up!
Charlie? Charlie! Charlie!
Something about Charlie's screams right there really fucking get to me. Like, I mean, ignoring her laughter right there, like, I mean, a lot of people consider Silent Hill Downpour to be a very poor imitation of Silent Hill 2. With moments like this, I sincerely disagree, because when it comes to moments of horror, I'm gonna, again, too much to people's disagreement, I think Silent Hill Downpour does a much better job in terms of being a legitimate horror game, because, God, and especially in moments like that where you hear Charlie scream while Murphy just chases after him in the, you know, into the light, that's so unsettling when you know what happened and the reason why Murphy was in prison, and the fact that he was so vindictive against Pat Napier. It pierces my soul in a way that I didn't expect, and especially as I've gotten older and I've really come to understand the story of this game, it hurts. Oh, and by the way, that was a radio where you could hear the distorted voice of DJ Ricks, because, yeah, he is dead, and, I guess upon death he fully accepts his role in Silent Hill. Because, I mean, as I forgot to mention last part, during some of the cutscenes over there, DJ Ricks' key theme was the theme of full circle, or that until you face up to your crimes or your penance, you will never be able to escape Silent Hill or find peace. And even in the people who do try to constantly repent for their crimes, like in the case of Howard Blackwood, I think his name is, yeah, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to be in for a decent existence. You're just going to keep doing it until you die. And in the case of DJ Ricks, he's keeping at it. So, yeah. And that actually does come into play with one of the endings, which is very unsettling, and honestly one of the creepier aspects of this game. Also, apparently, Silent Hill is falling to the path of darkness, as indicated by the tornado over there. Really weird, but, yeah. Again, more foreshadowing towards the bad ending. I don't know if the implication is meant to be that possibly Murphy was sent here as, like, maybe by his parents, or because there is the implication that some kids are sent here for religious reasons, or that perhaps they picked them up after a time, like a sort of academy or something or other, or maybe he was adopted or something. I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit of a discrepancy, and one that I feel is one of the weak links in terms of its background mythology, but apart from that, it does add some creepiness, especially when you hear some of the children complaining about the medicine they're being given, which is used to drug them. In fact, honestly, now that I think about it, if any future Silent Hill games come out, this could be a decent front for the cult. Like, I mean, if they ever decide to bring them back. Like, I mean, seriously, I could totally see a Silent Hill game, like, maybe set, like, you know, 30 to 40 years into the past, like, during, you know, well, okay, maybe not Dahlia's time, but at least around the time when these children were being indoctrinated into the cult's beliefs. You know, you could totally set a sequel to, say, like, Silent Hill Shattered Memories, where you're constantly having to run from monsters, and, you know, stuff like this could really be made to good effect. I mean, I know that Devin Chatsky, from one of the interviews of the game, wasn't really a big fan of the cult stuff, but, you know, this stuff right here gave him a prime opportunity. And, well, it's a bit of a shame that Silent Hill Downpour never really capitalized on it. Although I will say, though, that even without the cult's presence, the story does itself decent justice enough. Even if there are a few discrepancies in the plot, but I will bring them up where applicable, and, yeah, here's probably one of the more, icky puzzles of the game. Also, where the hell did they get that giant MRI machine? Oh no, it's an X-ray scanner. Sorry, what the hell am I thinking of? I don't know, weird discrepancy, but I'm saying that word a lot, actually, and I don't think I'm using it in the right sort of justice, but yeah. We are trying to find the keys. One of them are hidden inside the, wombs of the little, monsters down here. I believe the failure to get the right one will basically result in you getting attacked by monsters, so, yes, choose wisely. This is actually a bit of a tedious puzzle, so I think I might as well waffle on about the moral choice system, which... it was only really applicable earlier in the game, particularly with the, you know, will you rescue Anne Cunningham, or will you save, JP Slater? Again, it's something that I don't think was used to very good effect, if only because of the fact that, well, it's really A or B about it, and while some games like, say, Infamous was able to use that simplicity to decent effect, it doesn't really change Murphy's overall personality, akin to, say, like, Lee from The Walking Dead, or, you know, even Cole McGrath himself to be a little bit more vindictive, so ultimately it's just more or less a case of do this to get the bad ending, do this to get the good endings. I don't know. It's not something that I think was generally well handled, but regardless of such, at least it's a more simplistic system to let you know which way to get the bad ending, whereas, while I do appreciate Silent Hill 2 for being a little bit more subtle about it, you know, in terms of mostly going, okay, we're not going to tell you exactly what gets you the good or bad ending, but, depending on how you play or what you choose to do in the game, well, we'll just see where that leads you. That is a system I do honestly kind of prefer, because, you know, you won't really know what you're doing until you give the game a decent shot. Even though some I do think are probably a little bit more reliant on the player's actions, but I'll get to that when we get to Silent Hill 2. But I think in the case of Silent Hill Downpour, they probably could have made it a little bit more meaningful. I guess mostly in the sense of maybe changing a few elements, like, say, maybe rescuing Aunt Cunningham would have her be a little bit more easy on Murphy, considering the fact that the two other times we met her, she was, I hate you, Murphy, you're the worst person in existence, I would literally rather pal around with Satan than you, grrr. I don't know. I guess maybe that possibly would have tied into the whole co-op gameplay aspect that was cut out of Silent Hill Downpour, which was initially going to feature Anne Cunningham as a second player, but that's really just me speculating here. I really don't know much about Silent Hill Downpour's development cycle outside of what, well, basically what was in the trailers and what we already knew going into the game. I don't know, it would be really interesting to see Jesus Christ, it's the creep! Run, Murphy, run! He has a really awkward running animation. It's like, why are you? I'm gonna give you a piece of my mind, you... But anyway, we have escaped from the creep, and now it is time for a pretty heavy cutscene.
Hey, kid. I got the rhyme. I say it and you open the door. That's how it works, right? Hey. Did you hear me? I said... Hey! Kid! Look out! It's... Get out of there! Come on! Poor little Stephen Skelter. Even the chaplain won't forgive you. Forever lies your pleading cries, but Susie knows you felt her shit. Nowhere left for you. Nowhere left for you to run. Every fault laid bare in the open. Duh! Leave him alone, damn it! No! Alone with your skin splayed out from within. Once the monster has his fun. Oh, God! Darling! Take heed. It's not too late. His, mistakes needn't haunt you forever. He's just a kid, you son of a bitch! Though you have regret, you can't just forget. You alone decide your fate. Charlie, I'm sorry. So sorry. Charlie! Charlie! Oh, God. Charlie! Charlie!
Mr. Pendleton, I have to ask you to leave, sir. We've got everything under control.
Where's my son? Where's Charlie?
Please, Mr. Pendleton, you don't want to be here. Let one of my officers drive you back to the command center, and we'll call you when...
Where's my boy? Is he out there? Charlie! 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 Charlie!
Why did you hurt him? He never did anything to you.
Wasn't me. I didn't. I mean... Wait! Come back! That thing is in there! It's not safe.
You will listen to me, little girl. Why are you lying? You must come back to me. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation, but yeah, the only thing you really missed was the world shifting into the other world via magical Disney magic. And, well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we are in the other world, which looks significantly less impressive than it did beforehand, outside of having a bit more red to it, I guess. This is actually one of the more tedious other worlds, I'll admit, but it does have its perks here and there, mainly through like one or two small segments. I don't know. This is honestly the part of the game where I honestly think the Monastery overstays its welcome. But yeah, we get to have another encounter with the Bogeyman. I'm your Boogeyman. Can't really do the White Zombie song any sort of justice, but I'll commentate instead of trying to sing lyrics. Jesus Christ. I don't think they can actually get you, but I've never really stayed still enough to find out, so keep on your toes. Of course, as is common tradition with these Otherworld segments, we are, of course, going to be facing off against a familiar face. Assuming it shows up, I think. Is it around here or is it a little bit later? Huh. I thought we would have faced off against the Void at this point. Guess maybe I was wrong. Or is it here, maybe? Yeah, there we go. There's our old pal, the Void. Oh, Jesus Christ, that'd be something. X-Death and Silent Hill. That'd be terrifying. Do kind of wonder how Final Fantasy characters would actually fare in Silent Hill. Discussion for another day, I guess, but... This is actually one of the more labyrinthian, nightmare sequences to escape. Well, I mean, I say nightmare sequences in quotation marks, I'm really just basing it more off the, Silent Hill Shadow Memories, aesthetic, which had you running away from Rorschachs. I will say that in terms of overstaying its welcome, the only real problem I have with the Otherworld here is really that the puzzles tend to be a little bit monotonous. But other than that, though, it's nothing terrible, just a bit tedious. But I'm sure I'll find a way to pad out the time. Yeah, particularly with Murphy's bitch screams right there. Well, I mean, then again, he is getting slowly torn apart by the Void, so I don't really know how I'd fare in that sort of situation. But then again, we do also have a couple of other things. Besides a few puzzles, we also have the, oh, Jesus. yeah, we also have the Bogeyman to deal with. Well, we won't exactly be fighting him until the very end of this section, but yeah, we do kind of have to have a bit of an arena battle where we must survive until the entrance opens up. And now we have the little spike segment, which feels very out of place. This feels more like something you'd experience in like a platformer or something. I mean, this isn't, you know, this isn't Crash Bandicoot where he'll leap up onto the ceiling and lose a life by dying of fear. Yeah, this really is just more of a waiting game, really. Like, I mean, if you know how to time things right, then you'll get out of this no problem, but it is always a bit tense. I'm sure Murphy's getting a nice little acupuncture massage with those spikes, although if you get too close, then you'll get mashed, and now I remember what this reminds me of. This reminds me of Catherine with the spike blocks, which is actually a surprisingly gory death. I should really get to Catherine one of these days. It's one of my favourite puzzle games, especially to play on the hard mode. Maybe when the Catherine Full Body Edition comes out later this year. I don't know, could be fun. Little girl, wait for Murphy, you cannot leave! Oh no, it's Sid Wilson from the Slapnuts band. By the way, I don't know if this is recent or if this is subject to change, but apparently I heard that Chris Fehn has actually, like, caused some monetary problems with Slipknot. Or at least in terms of, like, negotiations or something or other. I don't know, I could be horrendously out of date with that, but, yeah, weird. Anyway, enough Slipknot tangents. Yeah, I swear the enemy here is literally just there to give Murphy something to do. The Bogeyman does hurt, so avoid his hammer strikes, especially on the hard mode, actually. That will cane the shit out of you. Excuse me. But you can actually use this to your advantage by taking out some of the enemies, which is a segment that I don't really like too much, because it does feel a little bit too video gamey for my taste. And to be perfectly honest, though, I didn't really like in Silent Hill 2 either, when you had to battle against the two pyramid heads. Because that also felt a little bit too video gamey. When I felt in that segment, you know, since James was facing up to his problems, he honestly should have, you know, vanquished him with the might of his strength, or the light inside his darkness, or whatever, but anyway. The thankful thing about this segment is that it didn't really last as long as, to the point where your tolerance threshold would have been superseded, so I'm at least thankful for that. Anyway, we now have, well, we now have a segment which is honestly quite easy to get lost in. And also has a lot of the, blood squirters, which can get quite annoying at times, because, well, I wouldn't exactly say it does enough damage to really be warranting, a desire to be careful, but it is kind of annoying because it staggers Murphy, and, well, it's just more of a minor annoyance. That being said, though, you will find your way out of this place eventually. The stairs aren't really that high, and, well, in due time you will find your way through, because just look into the light. Murphy Pendleton for Kingdom Hearts 4? Who knows? Anyway, we now get to the next segment, which I believe is the puzzle section, I think? Or at least one of the two puzzle sections, actually, because there is another one coming up here. Basically, it's just about setting up candles, and I think there will be a couple more enemies to fight. And I think this is honestly the part where the tedium begins to rear its ugly head, because you're not really discovering that much of worth. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't really know what I probably would have put in here to make it a little bit more exciting. I think it's just more so the fact that the tedium of the environment, you know, in tandem with the, well, I guess more so in tandem with, you know, the poor little Steven Skelter scavenger hunt that we had to get the Bogeyman rhyme, just, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but, you know, it is a little bit, fatiguing after a point in time. I say fatiguing for the lack of a better word. I guess tiring will probably be another thing to say. But in any case, we're basically just gathering around candles and basically partaking in our little ritual here. Again, why Silent Hill Downpour didn't delve into the cult, I will never know, because this is a perfect setup for it. And I really do hope that if there are any future games, they could use St. Maria's Monastery to a little bit more of a devious game, because unlike a lot of other series, Silent Hill was actually pretty up and up in its continuity. Like, I mean, while the later games post Silent Hill 4 did use it to more of a fan service degree, you know, it was still there, it was still running all throughout the franchise, which gave it a really nice sense of connectivity between games, even if it wasn't wholly referencing another. Like, I mean, especially with, you know, the Silent Hill 2 Walter Sullivan connection. Again, wasn't much, but there was a link there. Even though that did actually end up retconning Pyramid Head to be the Vartiel in a very strange way. I don't know. But anyway, we shall gather some health packs, because goddamn are we gonna need them. Well, I mean, I wouldn't really say they're that necessary, but there is an upcoming boss that can be a little bit troublesome if you don't have the right weapon to deal with him. The right weapon in question, of course, being your gun. I should also note, actually, there are actually two methods of firing your gun, one of which is using the over-the-shoulder aiming technique, which has been, you know, done to death in games like, you know, Uncharted, Gears of War, and all that sort of stuff, but you can also fire from the hip, which is honestly far more accurate if you really want to start using guns in this game, because Murphy will automatically lock on to whatever enemy is closest to him, and he will open fire. Kind of in a similar way to Shadow the Hedgehog, actually, which is immensely useful. We shall put the blue candle here, and then we shall put the red candle there. The choice is yours, Neo. I really want to do another Matrix game, actually. Maybe next year or something or other. Whatever takes my fancy. There we go, we will light the candles, and now we shall summon Slayer. Oh, sorry, we shall summon water. Next best thing, I guess, and I just kind of reminded myself that Slayer is, no more after their touring schedule this year. I'm sad now, but then again, I guess I kind of saw it coming ever since the passing of, you know, whatever. I don't want to make myself sad. But anyway, we pull this lever and the door shall be open. And this leads into, well, probably one of the more bizarre set pieces they put into the game. I think this is also when a lot of the enemies come into play, but huh, that was weird. I wasn't sure if that was an Andy Williams song, so that's kind of why I stayed silent, because I was totally ready to put in another Andy Williams counter gag, but yeah, whatever. One per part. One per part. Even though I'm pretty much just leaving them in at the end of the video just to remind people what the counter is, and well, also because I'm lazy, so fuck it. Take this, Murphy. Oh, that Pat Napier, he won't escape us for long. Bonk. Yeah, this is weird to have some very comic book looking stuff. And this is the bell puzzle, which gotta be honest, this was very eye on the guide for me, because even to this day, I still have a bit of trouble figuring out which bells do what. But yeah, I think follow the pattern I'm doing here and you should be okay. Maybe that was the other reason why I wanted to do Silent Hill Downpour, so I would never forget the bell puzzle, because, I don't know, I'm kinda terrible with remembering sequences. Then again, need I remind you, I was a very shitty math student when I was in school. In fact, even today, I'm really not all that up to snuff, which probably ruins my career as an accountant, so yeah, goodbye Scully being rich and successful and getting all the hot babes and the cocaine and the weed. I probably wouldn't have gotten all those things anyway, but you know how it is. Anyway, what this does is that it fills up the room with blood, and we shall proceed with our delicious, tasty morsel of plot. I think this is pretty much it for the Otherworld segment, though, so it's all gonna be smooth sailing from here, and I wish my video editor would just move on with the times, because the times are changing. Because we actually are coming right up to the end of the part right here. All these floating papers of scattered dreams and our chains of memories unforged. And of course there's that little kid with the wheelman. Anyway, on that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and I will see you next time for the Silent Hill Downpour commentary. Catch you later.